Good morning everybody and welcome back to another episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase, where today we're taking a look at another brand new custom set from Wave 4, this time being Z058 with 480 pieces. It's actually our last entry in this batch of customs, and this is the Fight for Zora River based off Breath of the Wild. And of course this set is important because it is the first time that we will be meeting Sidon, and this set is for ages 8 and up with 482 pieces, as I mentioned, retailing for a whopping £54.99 Great British Pounds. Yes, on the pricey size, we're taking that inflation into account, and contains 4 figures and 1 brick build character, and is packed with play features despite seeming like a fairly simple scene. In fact, this model is actually based off the sequence in which you enter Zora's domain for the first time in Breath of the Wild. You meet the Prince Sidon, which I know is optional, and you trek through across the bridges fighting moblins and lanayru and octorocks in the rain, making sure that you sort of have to make use of very limited resources because of the wetness and you can't climb, to snake your way through past the towers into Zora's domain. And Zora's domain will feature as a later on set. But for now, let's open up our box and take a look at what we've got inside. We have 5 numbered bags today, 1 instruction manual is a square, and if we open up that square instruction manual, we will see that bag 1 starts the construction on the base here, giving us our Zora tunic link and building up some accessories. We've got a crane, some rupees and so on here, and bag 2 builds up a bit more of the rock face that we've got here, recreating the domain, and includes our grass octorock, including a hidden feature. Bag 3 gives us our shock wizrobe and builds up the water and the left side of the cliff, another hidden feature in there. Bag 4 builds the bridge. We don't have a moblin in this set, but we do have a green lanayru, and then bag 5 finishes off with the tower, where of course Sidon jumps down from, and we get our Sidon figure finishing out the set and the build. But now let's take a look at what this thing has to offer. So I already mentioned that this is largely inspired by that sequence where you're approaching Zora's domain, and that goes true with all of the features on display as well as the terrain. It's built up on a 2-level piece and is sort of just designed to have lots of place to play around in. You'll notice a couple of jumper studs throughout, and that will tie into some features as we go through, but there's lots of that rich dark green foliage. We've got a wonderful waterfall in the middle, and then the Zora architecture, which we sort of nailed down a little bit in our various Tears of the Kingdom sets, but is something that I'm trying to find a nice way to transfer into Lego form. And the way to do that to me seems to be to use a mix of different blue shades in the aqua coloring and so on, and we'll come back and talk about that specifically later. Before we go too much further, I want to talk about the side builds though, because I did mention we have a crate. This is the same design that appeared in Wave 3, of course keeping some consistency between the models, and you can see here that it is easily broken into, so if you smash down on it or if you remove the tiles, you can reveal the contents, which here is a couple of different food items from the games. Now of course you could change this out, but there are 2 chests in this set, so these contents could appear elsewhere entirely. You could put the food items in those chests, or these shock arrows here represented using these yellow items, because this set does indeed include the firing bow. This was a piece introduced in LEGO Avatar that actually allows you to shoot missiles and is perfect for a franchise which doesn't have any guns to have stud shooters, to still have that action play. There's also a metal sword in here, just a soldier's broadsword or whatever, and there is a couple of fish around the model, but there's also the rupees. This is the rupee pack that we introduced in Wave 3. It works like a family mold where you get 3 green, 3 blue, and 2 red rupees in each bag, and you can just scatter those around area treasure chests to, well, be able to find and get some treasure. Okay, back to the main model though. I'm going to take us on a journey as we move to meet Sidon. Now of course with the tower being at the top here, you could argue that it's sort of overwatching the landscape, and actually the first part of this interaction is Sidon jumping down, but we're going to treat it as if it happens in the end, and maybe this is more of a watchtower along the way to Zora's domain. So we're going to start down here in the bottom left hand corner. You'll notice again some green spaces, and here is a jumper plate. This again I'm going to come back to. We've got a little pink flower down here and some ferns, and then our first play feature is hidden in this rock wall. You may notice a little handle. And this is a treasure chest buried into the rock wall. Now when we don't get one of these buried into rocks in the game, we do get them buried into the ground, and this is a great way to represent a magnesis puzzle, which is exactly what this is here. So using magnesis or just link strength, you can pull this treasure chest out of the wall, and while it's currently empty, as I said, you could always put the items or food in this one here. So okay, so a nice little reference as we go. And that moves us across to the bridge here, and as I mentioned, the bridge is in a variety of shades of blue, lots of dark turquoise, sand blue, and aqua, and to try and represent some more of the luminous rocks, which kind of the aqua does in some regard. We've also got these sort of blade spear pieces here with transparent blue, which are sort of sticking upwards. Maybe they're lights on the bridge, but this bridge is definitely very squished. It's not obviously perfect, and realistically it should span miles above. But again, this is sort of at the lower end, more of the rapid side of this environment build here. And again, it's about distilling the elements that matter. And of course, bridges are really important to this sequence. This sequence climaxes with a fight with a moblin over on Inigo Bridge, I believe. believe. And of course, while the moblin and that bridge is not represented here, perhaps room for a future expansion, this set does sort of lend itself to it. That kind of play fight can be enacted here with the Lizalfos or the Chakra's robe as well. Over the other side, we have a little camp. This is for the Lizalfos, so there's a little fire here and a stick with a fish on it, and of course you could take that off and roast it or bring the other fire on, so it could be used by Link, but it is designed as sort of the place where you can put the Lizalfos, and around here is where the trail sort of climbs up into the woodland area. Now I could have added a lot more trees, but I'm choosing to sort of mimic the area close to the riverbanks, and of course I'm limited by parts budget and so on. This one already went a little bit over, hence the ridiculous prices, but that's why it's quite stony here, which is something I was quite worried about, but I think that the blue and the aqua quite contrast it, and it is accurate to the area, and I really wanted a sort of landscape display piece. But regardless of all this, the path continues around to the side, sort of inspired by the kind of thing we saw on the Ninjago Island sets. A lot of the techniques are similar to one seen in there, and you'll notice this big boulder in the way, and this is of course representing when the boulders fall down the trail and attack our poor hero, or just get in the way. Now obviously this could be rock slide or can be monster orientated, and technically you could even open up the rock and put some rewards inside, but this rock is just situated on a jumper and can be flicked to be pushed down the hill and launched after our hero, and then just a simple play feature which also clears the way and also can just sort of be messed around with. And this is the first item that reveals another jumper stud, so this boulder is one of the items that can be moved around, so you could place this boulder back down on the ground floor. Don't know why it would be there, but you can, the option's there. The jumpers are also great for minifigure posing. There are lots of studs around, but having a couple of specific easy removal areas is always great. Now up here is actually our next major feature, and also includes the octorock. As you may notice, this suspicious plant is sticking in the ground. Now I love the octorocks in the game, and I think that them hiding in the ground is a really important feature to capture, so the fact that we had some heightened terrain here gave me the perfect opportunity to include our first one, which is the forest octorock. So there's this 2x2 hole in the ground, and normally you just see this part here, and then when I push a lever out back, pops up the octorock here, and you can see his little face as if he's ready to shoot. No shooting function on here. I'll go into this in more detail when we talk about the figures, but this is using a special mold that I designed for the octorocks and would later use for Mucktorok as well. It's a family mold, but again we'll come into that detail, but it does fit in a 2x2 area despite what it looks like on this image, and that is just controlled by a lever up the back that you just lift up, and it appears out of nowhere, and maybe that shocks Link into falling backwards off the cliff down into the Lizzle camp, or maybe it's just a surprise, but it felt like an absolutely must have inclusion. Now we have to develop how are we going to cross the river here, which is represented here with some transparent blue tiles sort of floating above this waterfall, which uses wind screens, which is similar to a Rivendell technique, and down the below we actually have some choppy water and waves using all these white pieces to represent the foam of the flow of the water. And I like the little translucent here, and yes, you're right, you are seeing something underneath. But how are we going to cross the river? Now of course there are lots of bridges and sometimes you can swim across, but because Breath of the Wild is a puzzle game and you have multiple ways of solving every location and problem, I chose to implement another one of those here, and that is chopping down this little fir tree to allow you to cross the river. So there's two little pins behind, and you can move this one, and then the tree with its weight can be easily pushed across the river, and then Link can dance his way across. But this feature does work in both ways, and you can actually chop the tree in the other direction, either to knock down an enemy, or maybe that's what sets the boulder off, but you have complete free will to sort of knock this in either direction by removing either one of these pins, and it will sort of slide either way, and then Link can just prance his way across over to this side, which admittedly there isn't much room here. There'd be more room if you remove this next feature, which is also on a jumper plate here. This is the catapult. This is sort of the one that the jumper plates are designed in mind. So this catapult of course can be launched and can fire anything. I guess just a Zora defense. Of course it's not very realistic, but I like the idea of it being a fortified position, and it just feels right, and of course it's a playset, so it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, this is just on a jumper, so you can easily lift this up, put this down the bottom, so maybe they're defending the bridge, or maybe they're defending the walkway up. You could put it where the boulder is, or of course again remove it and use it for minifigure posing, but Link can come over here and meet Sidon at the foot of the tower. Now as we're talking about the tower, I mentioned that Sidon could of course jump down all the way to the bottom, but we do actually have a little springboard feature up here for him to jump off. So that could be into the water as if he's going to dive and then swim upstream to meet you there, or it could be to launch enemies off. I don't know, you can do whatever you want with this, or it could be to recreate his introduction scene where he jumps down from the tower. That is the thinking, and I realize this is in the wrong direction because he should jump down to this foreground right where the magnesis chest was, but again, this is play, it doesn't matter. As for the tower design, it is quite small, quite cheapified, but I definitely think it gets the aesthetic across. Of course, it's not perfect, but I really wanted to get lots of little bits to represent the Zora finials and decoration in here, which is what you're seeing in like medium blue, dark azure, and even sand blue as well, in all these different shades to recreate the Zora patterning in a very 3D way. Once again, do I have to go on about the dots effect? This is another thing that's sort of bled through into this set in particular. And then there's a little space around the balcony, enough to put a couple of figures, but nothing major. And then this goes right up into the cone at the top where there's another one of those translucent pieces. And of course you've got dots on the sides, and you could of course rearrange these. Last feature to point out here is the transparent rod that's coming out the side. This is mostly designed with the shock wizrobe in mind, as of course you could sort of pose him here as if he's dancing through the air, although there are plenty of other places in the set that you could put him. And of course this rod is removable. You could also use this to simulate Sidon diving down towards you, or if you have Link and the paraglider saved from Freeing Nature Z061, you could of course attach Link to this and have him flying around Zora's domain. And this isn't really designed to attach or anything. I don't have any major plans to do the Indiegogo bridge. One concept I've played around with is the idea that certain sets could obviously be executed in very different ways. So what if LEGO came back to this concept and did the exact same set with the exact same budget, but with a completely different concept sketch? That's something I might look into doing in the future. I think that could be a lot of fun. But also just the fact that we will do a Zora's Domain eventually, but I wanted this to be standalone. Remember, this is a playset before a massively interconnected world that's going to make a perfect Hyrule. And I really like the composition of this set with the tall tower and sort of the winding path through it. I don't know if it's necessarily 100% how I expect it to turn out, but it is a welcome addition nonetheless, and I really enjoy it, and it rounds out Wave 4 quite nicely. But before we take a look at all of that, let's take a look at those 5 figures, as I actually think they're quite desirable, and then we'll check back in and talk about what's to come next. So as always, we'll start with our hero, and today that is Link in the Breath of the Wild Zora armor. You can see that I've given him flippers in dark blue, which is a new recolor. However, it just works. You know, it's a fun accessory for kids, but it also does match the feet as we saw. I know I've been inconsistent with this, but here they are this time. The legs printing has lost a lot of the detail and instead just gone for sort of sections, as most of the sort of Zora finials on the greaves actually goes around the side of the legs. We have got side leg printing here, probably not very realistic. I feel that they'd have to print these legs, at least on the front, but I don't necessarily think they'd have to dual mold them. But yeah, you've got the blue and the dark grey scale sections, could probably do some more detail, and then some belt print. And then across the torso, you've just got the simple lines, and then the grey areas, and then a bit of sand blue for those shoulder pauldrons that go into the head as well. And I really like how this figure looks. Now that I'm looking back on it, I definitely think it could use another detail pass as well. Obviously, the blue sections are quite simple. The grey and the silver end up being quite detailed. So maybe I've sort of let this one down, but it is sort of the evolution of my art style, so who knows here. And of course, you've got the Zora jewelry, and then this brand new head mold that sort of goes over the head. I imagine we will see this used again on other Zoras whenever we end up doing various Zora citizens, and he's got the normal Link facial expression that we've seen plenty as well. He's honestly, obviously a really important figure, but certainly not as interesting as, say, Sidon here, who is technically making his first canonical appearance. I know we've already seen him in the Tears of the Kingdom sets, Z070, Octorocks, Menace, Zora's Domain. However, this is his first canonical variant, as that is Wave 8, and this is Wave 4. So this is the Breath of the Wild design, and I believe there has been a slight change between the versions, as this one is in bright red and is using a cream color for his face and his body and everything in between. He's got his Zora sash on and then his blue finials around the top of his arms, and of course the little cuffs, and of course he's holding a normal trident piece to represent his trident as well. No tuft of hair up there. Again, this shark head piece is designed to sort of be usable for any other shark Zora, although not me, for obviously. I realize not many have his head shape, but I'm sure they could get away with something. And it is not a complete mold, it is something that just sits over the top of a normal minifigure head. Anyway, I really like this figure. I really think it's cool, and I appreciate that it changed between red here and then into dark red for the Tears of the Kingdom one to show them messing around with design as minifigures often do, but he had to be here. Next up is the Electric Riz robe, the first of our enemies. We'd seen the Frost Ribs robe, or the Blizz robe, no, not the Blizz robe, the Blizz robe's a level 2, the Ice Wiz robe even, in Freeing Nature in Wave 4, so Wave 4 introduced that, and this guy as well, so that is 2 of the 3 elemental variants here. This is a over minifigure body headpiece that we also used in Z0100 for the Poe Collector. It's got a big electric wand, again keeping it consistent to the Ice Wiz robe, and yeah, this just sits over the top of minifigure head, and that sort of face is just printed on to this element, so just a big element like the ghost that goes over a plain white torso with yellow hands and then a plain pair of black legs. Always great to get another one of these. I think they're goofy, and it will be good to have the full set eventually. And then we have the green Lizalfos, who's sort of your fodder enemy from the set. I mentioned it probably should have been Moblin, but this is the Lizalfos region, so I'm happy with my choice here. He's got the spear using the Tears of the Kingdom Horn pack, because again, this would have come out. The Tears of the Kingdom Horn pack came out before Tears of the Kingdom, and it has the molded head that sits over a normal minifigure head, because then that allows us to use this for Kilton masks eventually. Has the standard green printing, and it's always great to get another one of these for army building as well. Looks just like the game. This is one of my dream figures that I'd really love to have in real life, although obviously a LEGO designer could do better, but I'd very love to see it. And then the last one today is the Forest Octorok, which is using the Starfish piece down the bottom, or a variant of it, just a splat piece that fits in a 2x2 area. It has the smaller leaf 3-prong piece in the top, and then this is the new mold that I was talking about. So in order to capture the shape, I could have gone for something more round, but instead I chose to create a, how would you describe it? It's a 1x1 stud at the top and the bottom that rounds out, so sort of like a obtuse oval that rounds out to a 2x2 area around the middle. And this is the same piece that we used for Octorok, and a family mold of the same piece we will use for Deku Scrubs in the Wave 5 Echoes of Wisdom set, which is a 2x2 at the top and the bottom, and that goes up to almost 3x3 at its much width. So this is a family of molds that I've been designing that are sort of these rounder, more obtuse shapes, very similar to the BB-8 body, but just different dimensions, much more elongated, and it suits the Octoroks really, really nicely. Has some simple print on it, and we're going to be seeing this mold a lot across all the different Octoroks. And that is all the figures today. Is actually going to bring us really close for Z058, the Fight for the Zora River, a middling set, middling in the ground, something that I attached a high price point to for funny. But as I alluded to, that actually finishes the last set in Wave 4, meaning that after almost 3 years of being working on this one, because obviously it got interrupted by Tears of the Kingdom, I think we started this back in 2022, Wave 4 is finally complete, which means Waves 1, 2, 3, 4, some parts of 5, and then 8 are all now done, meaning we have 6, 7, and 9 still to go. Oh, and the rest of 5 even, before we finish the project. It also coincides with us just about to hit 100 sets. So let's take a look at the grid. You can see that I've added Fight for Zora River down to the row, meaning that everything is complete all the way up into the high 80s, I believe 90, like 80, 86, 87. So like only 6 sets until the 100 set recap, which I believe is scheduled for the end of summer in August. So that is something exciting to look forward to. And I'm really, really happy to be sharing that with you guys, especially as we move forward into Wave 5. So next time, obviously we're going to have some other videos, but the next big LEGO Zelda thing is going to be the Wave 4 wrap-up, where I talk about all those Wave 4 sets. I think it's especially important for this wave, given that it's been spread out over so many years. So I'm going to go through all the sets, talk about the features and the combinations and why we chose to put it in this wave. And then after that, the next custom set will be these two lovely fellows on your screen. So take a guess at those if you want to, but I'm very excited to share those as well. And in the meantime, let me know what you thought of this set, looking for modifications. Let me know if you'd be interested in sort of a remix of this set. It wouldn't be a remake, but sort of like a what if this set was made again 3 years later, but with a different concept. I think that could be a lot of fun, and I'm planning to do some of that for Great Sky Island as well. So that could be a very curious little sub-avenue for us to explore. But let me know your thoughts down below of this middling playset, middle of the range. I'm really happy with it, and I think it ties Wave 4 out nicely. And yeah, that Wave 4 recap will be coming soon. So for all of you that either won't hear or don't remember, it's coming. And then I will see you guys again very, very soon next week with, I believe, a trip to the castle. Long overdue. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.